Hey guys, we have finally returned. It's been like 2 weeks or something egregious since my last video on here, unfortunately. But I have been slammed with with film and life and work. Therefore, I legitimately could not make any videos. But we're back now finally. And basically, what the deal is today is we're just going to go through all the news, and I might have a ranking in this video too, but we shall see if I get to that. Um, yeah, so basically in the last video, I said that I was going to try to get a Disneyland Resort Magic Key, and I wasn't sure if I was going to get one, and I actually did. I secured a Disney Magic Key. I'm the lowest tier, I have the Imagine Key, and perhaps if they warned you more than 2 weeks ahead, or I think 1 week ahead, it was 1 week. They will give you a 1 week warning before they go on sale. So if, I had longer, I would have just saved for one with less blockout dates and whatever, but obviously that wasn't an option. So I just decided to get this one because I feel like it was a good choice. And it is worth every penny. Every penny, I tell you. To be able to just walk into Disneyland for a few hours, then go over to California Adventure, and then leave, go home. You're not miserably tired. You're like just chilling. You're having a good day. It's crazy. And it's so I've been 3 times with my pass in the past couple weeks. I think. I don't know when that went out. So it was a while ago, but I've been 3 times with it and it's already worth it. And I've only been 3 times. I'm still at the very, very beginning of my pass, and I still think that it's so worth it. I just go after school, or I go like after work, or just at any gap in my weekdays that I have, which on some weeks I have no gaps, and some weeks I only have a few. And the weeks where I have a few, then I always use Disneyland to fill that in. Which is cool. And it's insane that I get to do that, and it, when there's a new ride that, well, there won't be. Actually, no, the Mando and Grogu update for Smuggler's Run will come out in May, and I'll have a pass. It doesn't expire till next October, so, which I'll just renew it, or upgrade, one of the two. Just because it's so worth it. So worth it, but yeah, when that comes out, I'll actually be able to, I'll just book my reservation for that day way in advance, and I'll single rider it. If I'm going by myself, and if I have people with me, then I'll see how bad the wait is. But yeah, I'm really excited for that. So actually I will be able to, witness the new rides as a pass holder, which is pretty cool. But yeah, it really is worth like, for example, the Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout overlay for Halloween just started not that long ago. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. That just came out. I'm just going to book my reservation today and go and ride it. And that's exactly what I did. I waited 15 minutes for that ride because I went right after school. It's just like in the middle of the day on a random weekday when no holiday or break or whatever's even in sight. Those are the best days to go. I went. It was great. It was empty. It was hot as hell, unfortunately. But I still just went, So, yeah, I don't get the whole, like, thing about people whining about Magic Keys. Like, I get the reservation thing is, like, an extra step. But, like, that's just how it's been for, like, 5 years, So I just feel like it's more for I think it's just more for crowd control, But I do remember, in the past there wasn't this reservation system and it was fine too. So I don't know, but all I'm saying is it's not a big deal. You can book reservations day of, You know, that like literally I've booked reservations and then 3 hours later I go. Like I've done that, you know, so it's not like, see, if they were like, oh, you have to book a reservation um 2 days in advance, then that would be annoying as fuck. You know, for most people who don't know when they're gonna be available. When I can pretty much map it out pretty well, some people can't. And that would be annoying as fuck. But you literally can go on the fly as long as there's availability. And not only that, wow, there's some idiot slamming his horn right now. Anyways, you could book your reservation for California Adventure, right? You're not locked to that park. Like, I hope people know this, but you can park hop to Disneyland and back as many times as you want. You could go in for 5 minutes and come back, go to the other park. You can do that. You know, so like even if you book it at one place, you can still go to the other, which is crazy. But all your reservations are park hopper. So not only that, but, you know, also if you're going to spend the whole day there as an Imagine key holder, you get a discount. I believe it's 15% off at the Toy Story parking lot, which is the one where you have to take the shuttle over. It's just like right down the street, but you have to get on a shuttle and it drives you right up to the front, which is convenient. And you don't have to deal with the tram and all that bullshit, you know? So, which is cool. So it gives you a discount just for that lot. You don't get a discount for Mickey and Friends or Pixar Pals, which, you know, was kind of weird at first, but when I really thought about it, I was like, yeah, that's not that bad, you know? It's like, it's not the end of the world. It's just unusual. I don't park in Toy Story parking like ever, but I have once or twice, and it was actually, it's always a really pleasant experience, and that's probably why I don't remember it, because it's so, like, minor in my day, you know? But that is an option that they give you, too. And the parking at that point is only, like, $25 for the entire day, which obviously if you're just going for a few hours is absolutely insane, but not absolutely insane. It's insane. I wouldn't be like, oh, it's abysmal because it's a Disney, but if you're going just for that little hour period, then don't do that. You know, there's other ways that you can figure out to avoid their parking prices, but yeah, like that alone is crazy. Like honestly, bro, to get a discount at all for parking's pretty fucking nice, you know, because they love to rip your fucking balls off with prices there. So, you know, it helps like ease the price of things a little bit. So that's nice. You also get a 10% off food and merchandise discount everywhere in the resort, every store, every restaurant, which is really cool. It's a very little percentage, but again, if you buy something really expensive, that 10% is going to be worth a lot more, you know, than you think. But if you buy like a little thing, that'll be barely anything, right? So it's just like, it helps, you know. And you know, even as like if you work anywhere, like as a short little job as a teenager, from what I've seen, the only discount they give you is 10% off. So you're pretty much getting like the standard employee discount at most places, which again is pretty nice. So there are definitely perks, and you get access to all the Magic Key merchandise and special events and whatever. Even at the lowest tier, you get access to all of that. So, I mean, there's definitely some perks to a Magic Key outside of being able to go to Disneyland constantly, you know? But, like, obviously those perks increase and get larger the more tiers you go up. For example, if you have the highest tier pass, then parking is included. You don't have to pay a cent for parking, and you can park anywhere you want for free, which is insane. And I wish if they sold parking separately, I'd buy it. Like if like Knott's and I don't think Universal does, but I know Knott's Berry Farm, you can buy parking for like $95. For the entire year, you get free parking. That's worth it. You know, I'd pay a little more for that, honestly, for Disneyland. I wish that they sold that because I would totally buy it. You know, like that is so worth it to not have to pay anything for parking at Disneyland. You know, which is nice. I have my own method that's worked. I cannot say it because it's sketch, but I have my own method that works. You know, and if you think outside the box and you are willing to be kind of, what's the right word? Not mischievous, but kind of sneaky about it, there's ways to really drop that price down. To where you're still parking at the resort, but it's like you're paying barely anything. So there's ways, you know, I'm just telling you there's ways. You can look online. There's ways, you know, I just can't say it on here because I'm gatekeeping and I don't want Disney to find out my method, all right? If I see you in person, I can tell you, but you know, I can't spill online. That's not a good idea. But anyways, so yeah. That's really the only annoying thing about the lower tier Imagine Key is the parking's kind of annoying. If I didn't have my method, parking would be kind of a pain in the ass and I'd be paying quite a bit every time I go to Disneyland and that wouldn't be great. But I managed to make it drop to barely anything, like I said, but you know, if you can't do that or don't want to do that, then it's going to be kind of annoying and you're probably not going to go as much, you know, but yeah, it's sick, dude. I really am enjoying my pass so far, and yeah, it's really weird. I remember, because I haven't had a pass for like over 10 years, you know, so like, I remember my first day with the pass, it was so weird, because I hadn't been on the monorail either in years. And I just scanned my pass, and it brought me back to when I was a tiny little kid, and I'd go on the monorail in with my pass, right? And I was like, what the hell? Like, it just felt so weird going to Disneyland right in the middle of the day, you know, when most people had been there for hours, are already tired, you know, I'm just full of energy, and I just walk in, I get on the monorail and go, and I get in the park, and I'm like, what the fuck? I have an annual pass now. You know, it's just such a like weird, it's really cool feeling, but really weird feeling all at the same time. To know that you have access to that playground of imagination pretty much whenever you want on the weekdays. You know, weekends you don't get weekends, bro, with that pass. So if you work some job with an insane schedule or you have like kids and like, you know, I'd probably just buy the higher tier ones. But if you're someone like me who's still in school and shit and it's your senior year, you know, even if it was like 2 years ago, I would barely be able to go because I was slammed with homework. But now it's my senior year, I barely have any homework, whatever, knock on wood so far. And fuck, this is not wood in the wall, sure. And it's your senior year, whatever, you don't have a lot of work, whatever, then it's worth it and you can go. So, you know, that's kind of my experience. I've had a very good experience with the Imagine Key. Better than most, you know, but yeah. You know, and I wouldn't go constantly because then it would just run dry, I feel like. If I went multiple times a week like some of these crazy Disney adults do, I'm like, that'll like dilute it, I feel like. So I try to only go once a week, sometimes unfortunately once every couple weeks, you know, to just keep the experience alive, but still go frequently, you know. So yeah, that's just me. But I don't know if Disney's magic or whatever the fuck really ever dies. I'm really curious. I don't think it does, because I've been this year alone, I've been like 9 times and it just doesn't go anywhere. You know, like it's the same level. It's just like, I don't know what it is. It's like you enter a different universe when you're in Disneyland. It's so interesting. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because they block off the outside world so well. Like literally they block it off with their own trees and buildings and whatever. I don't know, but like when you step in there, it's like you are in a totally different dimension. It's the only place on Earth that I've ever experienced that before, to be honest with you. Disneyland Paris, it feels really weird. I've been there. It feels, I don't like the vibe of it at all. Ugh. You know, I'm sure Disney World's kind of similar, but like Disneyland, like it's just nothing like it. There's nothing like it that I've experienced that like literally takes you out that much. You know, it's weird. Um, and you know, that is a lot of the reason why these Disney adults constantly go is because they're scared of facing their life problems. So that's what they use Disneyland as a way to like pretend they don't exist, and that's unhealthy. But sometimes, you know, some people like going to the beach or like if you're in a foresty area walking amongst the trees or whatever. People have their own places where they go to just kind of unwind, whatever. For me, it's Disneyland, and more particularly Galaxy's Edge with a cup of blue milk and me just watching fucking stormtroopers and Chewbacca walk right by me like I'm in, like, it's just so weird. I've been there a million times and it's just like it doesn't get old. I've been on the same planet on the same missions for years. Nothing changes. It's the same. It's like, what the hell? That's, oh look, over there the Mandalorian just walked by me for a second. Or oh look, Boba Fett's behind me. It's like, what the fuck? You know, you only dream of these things as a child, and then like you have a really talented group of creative geniuses who make those dreams happen of you actually being able to live Star Wars in universe and be canon in Star Wars. If you've been on Rise of the Resistance, you're canon. You were a part of the, it's in, I think, the battles that changed the galaxy book. You know, that you were part of a, you know, resistance whatever crew that went in and, you know, whatever. It's like you are canonized. I'm gonna look up the exact, the resistance yeah, the Batu participants' attack on the finalizer is why Kylo Ren is on the Steadfast in The Rise of Skywalker. So, like, you literally are in Star Wars. Now, you're in a shitty period of Star Wars, but you're on the Star Wars canon timeline. And how cool is that? Sure, your name isn't written in, but you were part of the crew. You were part of the attack. You are one of the Batu participants on the attack on the finalizer, and the finalizer gets destroyed. And this is why in 9, I didn't know this until I'm seeing this now, because I don't watch the sequels anymore, because they're shit. And I've probably only seen Rise of Skywalker twice. I don't think I've seen it more than that. But my point being is, I guess he's not on the finalizer in that movie, and he's on a different ship, which means that they thought that through, which is pretty cool, I've got to say. So, like, you destroy the that's crazy. I never even realized that. So the Resistance does destroy the finalizer in Rise of the Resistance. That's crazy. So you are integral. That's insane. That's like taking down, like, Vader's Star Destroyer, the Executor, in, you know, the original trilogy. It's the same, like, equivalence. That's ridiculous. What the hell? Wow, that's cool. I had no idea. Nice. Well, there you go. Yeah, and Galaxy's Edge is the only thing with any of those characters in it that I can tolerate. Like, do I like seeing Rey everywhere? No. And I wouldn't even say everywhere, 'cause she's not everywhere. When you're walking around, most of the time I'm seeing Mando or Stormtroopers, whatever. I'm like, that's it. But Rey, like, it's like, okay. You know, if she had her lightsaber and everything, that's where it would be more annoying. But, like, she's just like Force Awakens Rey. She doesn't have her lightsaber. She doesn't do shit. She just has her stupid staff. And I think she has her blaster and her holster, and that's it. You know, she's not like some OP person. She's just a scavenger. And I think they did that on purpose because they saw the reception of her character and they're like, we can't make people stay away from this. We need people in. So maybe we should veer away from that. Or they gave Kylo Ren his helmet again in Galaxy's Edge, even though that breaks canon. Because no one wants to see Kylo Ren with no helmet because that's lame. You know, that is really lame. So what did they do? They put him in his Force Awakens outfit because that's his cool outfit. That's his only cool outfit. You know, so I was like, okay. So like they were semi-conscious when they developed it to not over-sequelize it because they knew that people wouldn't go if it was over-sequelized. Even when you're walking around in there, all the shops, Dok-Ondar's, Savi's workshop, that's all filled with real Star Wars stuff from the 6 films, whatever, references, like, it's stacked full. The whole land is stacked full, you know, with stuff. And that's really what makes it feel like Star Wars to me. It's like you have the Millennium Falcon sitting at a spaceport with Chewbacca right underneath it, and you're like, who cares? This is still Star Wars. That's straight from 1 through 6. You know, it's like, when you're walking around there, I don't feel like I'm in the sequel trilogy. I feel like I'm in Star Wars. You know, it doesn't feel like the sequels to me. It doesn't. There's a specific crappy vibe the sequels have that Galaxy's Edge doesn't have, because Galaxy's Edge feels creative, new, and authentic, and the sequels don't. So I guess that's really the thing, is Galaxy's Edge is a very creative, original planet that Doug Chiang helped design, who worked on the prequel trilogy. You know, so it's like there's reasons to this. You know, there's levels, guys. There's levels, but it's like, sure, would I prefer if it weren't the sequels? Of course, but since it is, I don't care that much, to be perfectly honest with you. Just because Kylo Ren, which in a situation like this where he's not being caked up by Rey constantly, I don't care. He's cool. He's just a cool-looking dark side user with a crossguard lightsaber. I don't care. That's cool. There's stormtroopers with different helmets. Oh no. Like, they're stormtroopers. They're still sick. And I'd say I like the First Order stormtrooper design almost just as much as the Imperial one. I think it is really cool. You know, and it shows the evolution of technology from then. That's cool. You know, like, these things, I don't care. Or like the concept of the First Order, not the execution, the concept of the First Order of basically Star Wars. I'm not even going to compare it to that, but like neo-imperialists who think that the reason why the Empire failed was retarded and, you know, stupid, and they're like, we need to grow and be better than them, you know, so they increase their strength like 20-fold, build in secret, you know, that's cool. That's really cool, you know. So, like, I don't care about that either. And the Resistance is just the Rebel Alliance 2.0. You know what I'm saying? So, like, a lot of this stuff, like, I'd say, you don't have old Luke there. You don't have Rise of Skywalker Rey with her yellow lightsaber. You don't have Rose. You don't have, like, old man Han, who they regressed his character entirely, right? Like, you don't have these the most garbage aspects of the sequel trilogy aren't present there. And really, all it is the original trilogy with higher tech. That's it. And by the way, they have a new light show, which is one of the coolest things, visual lighting presentations that I've ever seen with my eyes. And it only goes 1 through 6. They don't even mention Rey. They don't mention anything. And this is brand new. They just made this last year for Season of the Force. Or this year. Yeah, or beginning of this year, May of this year. And it tells the story of Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader from episode 1 to episode 6. That's amazing. See, they're present. being a little bit present and known. They're never going to directly say, hey, we fucked up and these movies are ass, but they'll do things like that are like not sequel trilogy. Or for example, they're changing Millennium Falcon to before the sequel trilogy, right? So it's like, and you get to choose which planet you go to. So it's like Star Tours on steroids, as George Lucas said. That's what he described the ride as when it first came out. But now it is, because there's going to be variety. And not only that, you get to choose where you go. This isn't like Star Tours where it's randomized. You actually get to choose. The crew in the cockpit gets to choose. Do you know how fucking cool that is? That you can fly to Cloud City on the Millennium Falcon, fly to Tatooine on the Millennium Falcon. Like, this shit is, you are flying the Millennium Falcon. And don't, that's ridiculous. I mean, the fact that anyone has the audacity to complain about that is crazy. I know so many people who hate that ride. And I'm like, what? Sorry, it's not a fucking roller coaster. You're piloting the Millennium Falcon. How are you whining about that? That is like the coolest thing ever. When would you have ever thought that you'd have the ability to do that? You know, it's so dumb. Like, it's honestly stupid. Like, some of the things that these people say, you know, it's like they're so, like, I get being bitter because the sequels are terrible fucking films, horribly written scripts. You know, the vast majority of Disney Star Wars is just straight up trash, like Book of Boba Fett and the Trasholite and, you know, Tales of the Empire. You know, like, the vast majority of it is shit. But just because the majority of it's shit doesn't mean that every single tiny little detail of it sucks. And this is something theory agrees with. Sure, there's nothing that will touch George's stuff, but there's things that are enjoyable, that feel like Star Wars, and that are fun, that is produced by Disney. That has happened. The first 2 seasons of Mando, Tales of the Jedi, Vader Immortal, The Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor, Galaxy's Edge. You know, like, there are things that they do that aren't terrible. And it's like, you don't need to blanket everything. You know, only a Sith deals in absolutes. You know, to blanket, or fuck, Rogue One and Solo are excellent movies. You know, it's like, you don't have to blanket everything as bad. You know, it's like, that's not fair, and it's not reasonable. You know, being able to fly the Millennium Falcon and have one tiny minute detail wreck and destroy your experience because you heard a phrase, you heard the First Order instead of the Empire, that you're going to tweak and whine and cry. It's like, honestly, that's kind of ridiculous. You know, that is kind of ridiculous. Coming from a Legends-loving George Lucas acolyte, I say that's ridiculous. And in fact, the creator of Star Wars said that he liked that ride and thought it was his ride he made on steroids. George doesn't just say things, George doesn't say that he likes something when he doesn't like it. That's not George. He just wouldn't comment. You know, or he'd sarcastically hint that it's terrible. He never said that. He enjoyed Smuggler's Run, and he enjoyed Galaxy's Edge. There's an interview of it online of him there, his words coming out of his mouth. You know, he's like, you're on a giant movie set. It's really cool. It's like, dude, like, what? My God, like, it's annoying. It really is annoying. It's like, you know, and sure, the Lucas World concept sounds fun in terms of going to all these different planets, but it wouldn't feel immersive because you're just like jetting from place to place unrealistically. And how would they do that? You know, it's like, I don't know. That just is weird. And it would feel like each area would feel small. It would be awkward. I feel like rather than just having one planet to have it be on, And they were like, we're not going to pick one that already exists because then we would be dragging that planet, and that planet would get boring. So they're like, we're going to make our own original one that people haven't been to before, so that when you step into Galaxy's Edge for the first time, it feels like you're exploring the planet for the first time. Like, I don't know, how the character, how, let's say, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan and Padme and crew were and going to Tatooine in episode 1. It's the same thing. You're experiencing that planet for the first time in the same way that the characters in Star Wars have. And that's legendary. And Batuu is one of my favorite planets ever, by the way. I think it's really beautiful. Its history is really cool. There's a video game that's really good called Tales from the Galaxy's Edge. I love that game. It's one of my favorite VR games. One of my favorite games, period. It's so fun. It's a really, really fun game. And it tells you the story of how the Resistance and First Order got to Batuu. And once you're done with this DLC, the Falcon has arrived on Batuu and the First Order's arrived, and then you go right into Galaxy's Edge, right? So it's like a prequel to Galaxy's Edge, and it is really fucking fun. So it's like, I don't understand some of these people, it really is weird. It's weird. Now, obviously you can't ignore statistics. So if it was true that, Galaxy's Edge is suffering and the attendance is so low and whatever, then it's like, that's statistics, and you can't lie about that. I could love it, but I guess the vast majority don't, if that was the case. But I don't think that's the case, because guess what? Every fucking special event they have there, it is packed full to the brim. It's like, and when you go on peak seasons and holidays, it's packed full, right? So like, when I'm there, I never feel like it's this empty thing. And I remember seeing things going around saying, Galaxy's Edge is not doing well, and the Docking Bay 7 food's shrinking because attendance in Galaxy's Edge. It's like, no, because Disney did a series of massive budget cuts to their parks because they needed to compensate for how shitty their movies were. It had nothing to do with Galaxy's Edge. Like, these people have no brain. It's like they don't think. They just see some stupid rumor online and they go, oh yeah, I'm going to listen. I'm going to follow. It's like, no, you need to fact check everything you see before you say it. It's like looking at anything from Fox News or CNN and going into it and leaving with that information thinking that it's not fake news or not biased. It's like, yeah, it is. It's dumb. It's the same level of shit. It really is. It's like some idiot twisted a little detail they heard or made it up entirely and put it online for attention. It's the same thing with the news. It's the same thing with this. It's a life skill that you need to learn. And, yeah, it's just dumb. I don't get the little hate for Galaxy's Edge that there is. The vast majority of people, from what I've seen online, really like it and they really enjoy it. And if you don't, that's okay. I'm not going to strangle you. If you're just like, I don't vibe with it, you don't vibe with it, whatever. But if you're going to try to tell me that it's objectively not Star Wars and objectively this and that, then I'm going to have to prove you wrong. It follows all of George's guidelines in terms of how you make a planet. Everything looks used, it looks old, it looks like it's been in service for a long time. It's rich in history, it's unique, it's unlike anything we've seen before. Like, all these things that go into George's design process for planets is there. And again, why is that? You have Doug fucking Chiang on the crew who literally helped design all of these famous planets that we know and love from the prequels, like Naboo and Mustafar and whatever. I know Mustafar was also inspired by a Ralph McQuarrie piece too, but still, like, the vast majority of it, Doug was part of that, so he led that for the most part. I know it was him, Ryan Church, and Eric Timmons were all the three lead designers, but still, he had a massive role in those planets. So it's like when you have someone like that working on a new planet, it's not going to be that bad. And also, John Williams composed the music for that land. When you walk through the tunnel and there's that weird, like, that fluty music with the like, what's it called? What the fuck is that instrument? I can't describe it, but when you go through the tunnel to enter into Galaxy's Edge, there's music playing. That's actually John Williams. And the dun 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 dun. That's John Williams. And then of course the rest of the music is John Williams because it's all from the original, it's all from the movies. Yeah, so like it's scored by John Williams. It's like, what more do you want, bro? Like, the only thing that I'd say would make it a 12 out of 10 was if it was original trilogy themed. I think that would have made it a 12. Right now, it's like a 10. But if it was original trilogy themed, it would be a 12. And I'd lose my fucking marbles. That would be insane because you have the Galactic Empire flag. So it's like all those little minor details that just don't bother me. I'm like, it would turn those into what? So it's like that. It's sure, it would definitely be cool to like have Darth Vader walking around with a squad of Imperial troopers. And instead of the TIE Echelon, you have like a Lambda shuttle. Look, those little details, it's like that would amplify the experience, but I'd say without them, it doesn't take anything away. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it would only get better if they changed it. That's the thing. So that's just me. And, I really say original trilogy because I that's objectively the most loved trilogy on a wide audience scale. And in the concept art, it was originally gonna be original trilogy. So now I wonder who the fuck decided to change it to the sequel trilogy. My guess, Kathleen Kennedy or Bob Iger. Yay, two people fucking to ruin our fucking franchises. But one of the two, or both, I don't know whose idea that was, but it wasn't fucking good. It would have made the experience even better, So, do I agree with the whole thing of I don't like that it's so, that it's only on one planet and every time it gets boring. It's like, I'm sorry, when you go in Tomorrowland, is it split into 8 different space stations? And then when you go to like the Frontierland, or you split, like, that's not how this works. It's not. And I get the funny fan concept, okay? But you would need, the only way that would work is if it was an entire theme park where each of those planets were almost the size of Galaxy's Edge. Sure. Then, by all means, please, make a third Disney park, have it all be Star Wars. That would be the biggest thing in theme park history. One of the biggest things in pop culture history. Do it. That would be great. But that's the only way that would work. To say, let's make, one land, 8 different lands, that's going to feel like trash. It really is. And a lot of that's going to be all indoor, and that's going to make it feel kind of artificial, right? Like, people just don't think realistically. And this happens. I'm a student movie producer, and I'm always thinking with that logic, which helps me a lot because I'm a super big writer and I'm a super big producer. Not in terms of I'm so like, but like, I love writing and I love producing, and they balance each other out perfectly. So I'm like super creative, but I'm also like super realistic, thinking with material and finance and all these things too. So it's like I think both ways. And so I end up thinking more realistically than someone who doesn't understand the financials or logistics of doing something like that. Where you might be like, oh, let's split this one thing into 1,000 lands. Like, no, That doesn't work, man. At least not for me. For me, that would not work. That would feel like, sure, I wouldn't complain if I was stepping into Hoth than Mustafar or whatever, but it wouldn't feel like you're there. It wouldn't feel like you're in Star Wars. It would feel like you're watching Star Wars. Do you see the difference? It's like the immersion, I feel like, would kind of break off a little bit if that was the case. But again, if it was a whole theme park, then sure, it would not. But yeah, they won't do that, you know. They're never gonna do that. That would be sick for me if they did, but I just don't think they ever will. You know, that's just not, you know, I don't know. That's just not, Disney doesn't do that. They don't make an entire theme park off of one IP. They like to have variety and whatever and stuff for everyone to enjoy, and that's just kind of the Disney mindset. But yes, I'd love there to be a whole Star Wars theme park. That would be a dream come true. Beyond any dream come. That would be crazy. I'd spend so much time there. Oh my gosh, bro. That would be fucking crazy. But still, Galaxy's Edge is fucking incredible. I have no hate or anything towards that place. It is incredible. And so well designed, down to every minute detail. Down to when you go to the drinking fountain, the Dianoga from, guess what? A George Lucas movie, From A New Hope, sticks its head up. It's like, what? They did not need to do that, you know, but they did it anyways. Or the numbers on the crates of the shuttle on Docking Bay 7 that says 77, 80, 83. That's the reference to the original trilogy. Or you walk into Dok-Ondar's and Palpatine's frieze from Revenge of the Sith is on the wall, right? Then you walk in more and there's stuff from every era of Star Wars around you. And mind you, the stuff in there isn't really from the sequels. It's all George's stuff. There's a clone helmet. There's a statue of Jar Jar. There's Mando's helmet. There's Imperial helmets everywhere. You know, there's Jedi relics. It's blasters, Han's blaster, and Chewie's bandolier. Like, it's crazy. It genuinely is crazy, bro. Yeah, I mean, it is so cool. It really is, you know, and yeah, maybe this video will just be me glazing Galaxy's Edge, and I'm fine with that because it deserves. This is the only thing that, well, that's, yeah, pretty much the only thing that's Disney Star Wars that I will wholeheartedly say is a 10 out of 10 product. You know, I don't think anything else is truly 10 out of 10, you know, because there's always something here and there that I'm like, Galaxy's Edge, I'm like, yeah, they hit the spot. You know, it's just a feeling that is unlike anything else. When you walk in and you see a full-ass X-Wing sitting there, it's like, whoa. You know, it's like, it's still, every time I'm there, it hits different. You know, it's very cool. But, yeah. And, you know, just another thing is Darth Vader's lightsaber sold for $3.6 million at an auction that was screen used. Just random. Super random little thing in there. That's the other thing that I did want to mention at least once. But that's crazy. A lightsaber. You could buy multiple houses for that price. The price of a little lightsaber. $3.6 million for a lightsaber. If that doesn't show the cultural impact that Star Wars has had, I don't know what else does. I mean, that alone is that's like the Shroud of Turin for Star Wars, bro. Like, that is proof that this is not just any fucking movie or whatever. Like, that's insane. This is not a signed thing. This is not a costume. It is literally one prop that was used in some shots of some movies, and it sold for that price. Beyond me. beyond me. But yeah, that's it. Leave a like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you guys in the next video. Till the next one, may the force be with you always. Goodbye.